Hello, and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing leads to another. I've done a couple of videos recently on the large primates, chimpanzees, gorillas. I'd also like to do one on the orangutan, and another one on the gibbon. So I'll use this book as a starting point and see where it leads. It's by Caroline Arnold and photographs by Richard Hewitt. Now, I showed you a previous book of theirs. They've done a number of books, and they work in conjunction with the Los Angeles Zoo. So they have access to expertise, and they have access to situations where they can take intimate close-up photographs. So it's nice working conditions, I think. Now, in this book, there's reference paid to the other primates, and I found this page particularly interesting because there are two subspecies to the orangutan. One lives in Sumatra, tends to be more reddish, doesn't have this big flapping pouch that grows down from its cheek, or rarely does, as the orangutans that come from Borneo do. The name orangutan is formed by two Malay words, orang and hutan, which together mean person of the forest. Now, in the zoo in Los Angeles, all but their orangutans are from Borneo, except this one from Sumatra. It's not that I found that interesting, but I didn't find it as interesting as when I was reading about motherhood. Those were males. After a successful mating, the female is pregnant for about 9 months before giving birth, usually to a single infant, although sometimes twins or triplets are born. A newborn orang has fine hair on its head and its back and its limbs, and weighs about 3 pounds. First, the baby clings to its mother's belly as it moves around. It's completely helpless. And the mother usually knows how to take care of her baby instinctively. Sometimes, and this is the thing that I found fascinating, a new mother does not seem to be able to care for her infant. This is what happened when Michael was born. His mother, Eloise, ignored him, as she had her 2 earlier offspring. Those babies, Pumpkin and Rosie, had been raised in the zoo nursery and returned to the orangutan group when they could take care of themselves. However, when Michael was born, the keepers decided to see if one of the other orangutan females would act as a foster mother to him. They offered Michael to Sally, whose last-born youngster no longer needed her. Sally, who is actually Michael's grandmother, immediately took over his care and since then has raised him as her own. And he stayed in close proximity with her for the whole first year before starting to go out and explore a bit more. Now, that seemed to raise a little problem that can happen in zoos. My oldest, or our oldest son, has just returned from performing and visiting around in Europe, students of his, and he was in the zoo in Vienna, and they had just had a baby orangutan born, and everybody was so excited. Now, I don't know whether that same situation developed or not. It does seem to be a greater possibility when it happens in the zoos. So, from Stationary Ark, a chapter devoted to some of the problems that have arisen with trying to have mating and birthing of endangered animals. And he talks a bit about the Bali, who is from Borneo, orangutan. Bali was of a temperament so sweet and gentle and idiotic that we were inclined to think of her as feeble-minded. It was fortunate for us that we had this view, for although immensely proud and enamored of the baby, she had not the faintest idea of how to deal with it. It is universally accepted now that among the apes, the babies get their basic sex education from watching adults. Thus, a young male learns how to mate by watching his father, most likely in the wild, and a young female learns how to look after a baby from her mother in the wild. But if an ape is taken into captivity at a very early age, it does not have a chance of learning these techniques, and this can cause great difficulties when it comes to breeding. Bali had come to us when about 2 years old, and so she should have had an opportunity to watch some habits in the wild. Perhaps she had, but had forgotten them. Be that as it may, she was delighted with her daughter, cleaned her up very nicely, then clasped her in her arms. And that, as far as she was concerned, was all you had to do with babies. The poor infant, now on her hip, now on her back, now draped over her head, searched desperately and unsuccessfully for a nipple with which to drink from, while Bali just sat there, beaming benightedly. Eventually, we were forced to go into the cage with her and show her how to hold the baby so she could feed. This took several days, but in the end, she got the hang of it and seemed enchanted with so novel an approach to baby rearing. So that's a little catch problem that can arise trying to rear animals in a zoo environment rather than in a natural wild environment. But I thought that the people at the Los Angeles Zoo came up with quite a radical solution. We know that she's paid no attention to the 2 previous babies she's given birth to. Let's see if we could find one of the other orangutans that would serve as a surrogate or foster mother. And I was impressed with that. Well, thanks for joining me. And till next time, bye for now.